Pictures.
Boop, boop,
Boop,
boop,
pictures.
boop,
Some of you have been asking us to review the 50mm 1.2 S lens. This is Nikon's latest 50mm offering in the Z lineup. It is quite a bit more expensive than the 50mm 1.8, and a few were asking what the big deal is, so we thought we would test it out. Now, you take very different pictures to me, usually. I decided to compare it with the 50mm 1.2 AIS and the 55 1.2 AI because I happen to have that lens. So all very similar designs originally, or similar concepts, but obviously this lens is considerably bigger.
Yes.
What did you compare it with?
I compared it with 51.8 S lens and also Sigma 51.4 R.
Right, so we've got quite a varied range of lenses that we've compared this to. So let's take a look at the results. The 50mm f1.2s has a maximum aperture of f1.2 and a minimum aperture of f16. The lens construction is 17 elements in 15 groups, including 2 ED elements, 3 aspherical elements, and elements with nanocrystal and arneo coats. The minimum focus distance is 45 centimeters, or about 1.48 feet. Now, I found that very useful for close-up photography. It has 9 rounded diaphragm blades, which makes for beautiful bokeh. And with its 82mm front filter thread, you can utilize all of your existing 82mm filters. At 1.09 kilos, it is not light and easy to carry around by any stretch, but it does have features such as the optical LED display, function button, and a very nice wide manual focus ring for you to just grab focus when you need to, as well as a customizable ring closer to the mount. There are a number of reasons why I like the 50mm f1.2 lens in general as a focal length and also as a maximum aperture lens, because it is the kind of lens where you can completely remove your background from the picture no matter what the subject is. The main issue that I always had with the 51.2 AIS and the 55 1.2 AIS was that, as I said before, it is not very sharp, wide open. This means that you do have to stop down, and of course then you lose that lovely creamy bokeh, but it's great to shoot wide open for more creative effects if you're not so worried about the sharpness of your subject. However, that is not an issue with the 51.2 S lens, because not only is it very, very sharp wide open, but it is a background obliterator. So it doesn't matter if your background is messy or if you've got random things behind your subject. The lens itself actually removes any of that, as you can see from the pictures. So for a very special portrait lens or a creative close-up lens, I would say you can get rid of this. The fact that it focuses 45 centimeters away, which is 5 centimeters closer than these lenses as well, means that you can sort of use it as a close-up lens even if it's not a macro lens. It also happens to work with the NIKKOR Z macro extension tubes, which I will talk about in another video. Things I loved about it: you can shoot wide open. It lets you have so much light that you can shoot in very, very low light situations. The shape of the bokeh is gorgeous as 50mm go. It's ideal for close-up, portrait work, general purpose, even a bit of landscape. I've used it for all of those things and not had any problems. The downside, I would say, is that it's so big. But apart from the fact that it's big and heavy, and it is big and heavy, that aside, it is a beautiful lens. And I would say if you want something a little bit more special than the 51.8, then this is worth looking at. However, if you are under a budget and you don't want a lens that is that size, and you also don't want to spend £2,300, then the 51.8 Z lens is still phenomenal. As an alternative, you can pick up a 50mm 1.2 secondhand these days for currently about £600 to £700, sometimes cheaper if you get the earlier version. So if you do want something that shoots at that aperture, perhaps for shooting video or something similar, then this is another great alternative. One thing I haven't mentioned is how good it is for video work as well. If you want that slightly special aesthetic to your videos, 1.2 is not an aperture that we normally shoot at for videography. However, it works really beautifully for that as well and gives you just a little bit of a different look to your standard 50mm or of course your perfectly clinical 24-70 zoom lens, which again is a great video lens, but maybe doesn't give you that extra special shallow depth of field that you get from the 51.2. Every so often, Nikon bring out a lens that changes the way we think about their glass. I would say the 105 2.5 AIS was one of those lenses. The 28mm f1.4e f-mount lens was one of those. The 58 1.4 or even the 105 1.4e. All of those have been incredibly special lenses that Nikon have brought out in the last few years. As primes go and as 50mm go, the 51.2 Z lens, I would say, is also one of those lenses. It's just got that extra little something about it, which makes it so obvious that you're shooting with something very, very different as opposed to a standard 50mm lens. Obviously, it's not for everyone. Not everyone is going to want to spend that kind of money or want to pick up a lens that is that size and use it, considering that it's one focal length and that it's a reasonably limited focal length. However, I'd say if you do want that little extra special aesthetic to your pictures, then the 1.2 is probably a nice way to go about it. So you've tried it out for a little bit.
I had it for about 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, and what did you think?
I like it. I like the rendering. It's very sharp, but the rendering is just fantastic. In comparison to Nikon autofocus lenses, so 51.4G, 51.8G, and also Sigma Art, it's better than all of them. The main thing, I would say, Sigma is really good lens. However, the focusing, especially on that system, is a little bit iffy. So 51.2 is much better. You get more shots in focus, and obviously the image quality in terms of sharpness and bokeh is definitely much better. Now, compared to 51.8S lenses, I do find them to be fairly close. Now, 51.8 is better than all f-mount Nikon or Sigma lenses, full stop. Priced at £500, it's definitely a sweet spot. It's not too cheap, but it's also not too expensive, especially compared to this lens. For run and gun, 51.8 is a lot smaller. It renders beautifully, it's very sharp, it's very light. It is a very good lens to start your Z system. This is, yes, on another level, but the difference there is not optical sharpness, it's the bokeh rendering. Both are very good. Yes, this one is creamier. Yes, this one has a special sauce. In my personal opinion, I would only buy this lens for professional use. So weddings, events, portraiture, I wouldn't buy it as a leisure lens, and the reason for that is its size. It's too big and too heavy for me, especially on the Z6 body is a little bit front heavy, and maybe with Z8, upcoming Z8, it's going to be better balanced. But I do feel that 51.8 is more sensible choice just for kind of walking about lens. However, yes, if you, as a commercial investment, it's a superb lens and it's definitely worth the money that you pay for it.
Sure. In contrast, I used it for a full, actually a little bit more than a month, but I did a one lens challenge back in January where I used it as the only lens on my camera. That was very interesting for me because originally I agreed with you. I found it too big and too heavy. I thought there's no way that I would use this on a daily basis. My 55 1.2 in comparison is this big.
Yeah, so you got about you can stack them up about 3 times to reach the same height.
Almost. However, the image quality was so fantastic and it was so special. The rendering was so different to what I'm used to.
Nikon's secret sauce.
Whatever it is, it made me fall in love with it more and more. And it became for me a lens that I would take around. Obviously, you have to be serious about taking pictures. You don't take it out on the off chance that you're going to take some pictures.
Yeah, and after 12 months of using it, your biceps are much stronger.
I'm so ripped now.
Exactly.
Also, you've made it look worse by putting the lens hood on. It's not that bad. I've compared it with the 50 1.2 AIS and the 55 1.2 AI. Wide open, those are very creamy and not really very sharp at all, whereas the 51.2S just kind of knocks the socks off them entirely. When you start to stop down, obviously you see less and less of a difference, but I also preferred the bokeh on this one. And the other problem is that with the 50 1.2 AIS and the 55 1.2, you have to use the FTZ adapter. And then your depth of field kind of changes slightly because this lens is so much closer to the sensor.
Oh, I see, okay.
So I think that also adds to the fact that this is a nice lens. But if you want something that slips in the pocket, it's not going to be this.
I mean, it's nice to have autofocus on your lens, isn't it?
Lovely to have autofocus. And that closest focusing distance is also particularly nice.
If you like this video, do hit this like and subscribe button for more content like this.
Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.